All right, welcome to the 2021 Virtual Christmas Summit brought to you by Boscoyo Studio. This presentation is sponsored by RGB Sequences. As a reminder, please don't unmute or interrupt the presenter, and feel free to put any questions or discussion in the chat during the session, and we'll open it up to a Q&A at the end. This is Stupid Easy xLight Sequencing for Beginners Part 1, presented by John Storms. This session covers sequencing basics so people can do their good sequencing without being bogged down in advanced features. And with that, John, it is yours to take away.
Thank you. Very nice introduction. So, like they said, this is meant to be stupid, easy xLights sequencing. So everything that Barry taught you, everything that Keith told you, I'm going to tell you to do the exact opposite. Not exactly, right? The whole idea is xLights is a huge piece of software. It's very hard to learn it all, but it's a journey, right? They're always adding new features all of the time. And what my goal here is to show you enough of the basics, the framework, that you can then go and explore it for yourself. Some things you're like, I never knew I could right click on that. So we're going to try to, introduce you to that stuff and also show you how to do a decent sequence, not the best sequence. We're not trying to teach you to be Ron Howard, right? We just want to get you to a point where you can get started, and then you can start your own journey of learning it on your own. Okay. So that's really where we're going. And we're going to do a sequence live right here, which I think takes a lot of guts to do, right? Because if I screw up, it's going to be here on video for everybody to see forever. And we have, detailed step-by-step instructions. So these slides are available. So when we go through the tutorial, you'll be able to go back and do it at your own pace and, step by step, and recreate the tutorial that we're going to do here today. Okay. All of this stuff is posted online. All of the materials is at listentourlights.com. The slides, the sequence, and the song that we're using is chosen specifically because it is royalty free, which means we're not going to run into any issues with posting this online. And if you really want to go download the song, the one place I find that still has this song, originally came from Amazon, is on Napster of all places. Yes, Napster still exists. A little bit about myself. My name is John Storms. I'm from Cedar Park, Texas, which is just north of Austin. I work at NVIDIA on the software compiler team. And I consider myself to be a perpetual intermediate. I am not an expert at xLights. I know a little bit about a lot of things, but not a whole bunch on anything. So I've been doing, started off with Lightorama like most people, and sequencing is my favorite part of this hobby. Now, just to introduce you to my biases, I like Falcon controllers. I use 12-volt pixels. I have a Boscoyo fetish that leans heavily towards snowflakes. So Boscoyo is, sponsoring the Christmas summit, and I am sponsoring Boscoyo. I like their snowflakes. It's good stuff. And I run xLights and I use Xscheduler and Memus Windows. I have a decent PC that I can run my show on, so I not running on FPP. I have an FPP that I play with, but I'm not running. Interests, like to travel, used to. Like to go to Disney parks, used to. So this year I ended up doing a lot of sequencing and a lot of Kerbals. Okay, enough of me. Like I said, I'm not a xLights expert, and you don't have to be to do a decent sequence, right? It's something that you shouldn't dread. It's something you play and experiment with. Okay. First of all, you want to know what your resources are out there. There are a lot of resources to help people sequence. First of all, xLight software is free. The xLights manual is amazing. If you have a question, go to the xlights.org website and open up the manual. There is tons there. And then if you still have a question, you can go to the Zoom room that also has a link from xlights.org and ask questions to experts literally 24/7. Australian guys are in there at night. American guys are, and some Canadians sprinkled in, are there during the day. It's a wonderful resource. There are, or were, weekly X Essentials classes. Ed recently slowed that down just a little bit because pretty much everything that can be taught's been taught. We have things like this, the summit, there's your local mini, there's tons of Facebook pages, tons of YouTube videos, and then even the vendors are a really good source. Okay. So don't think you have to do this all by yourself. Another resource, shameless plug. I do a live stream on Thursdays and Sundays, 7 and 1:30 p.m. Central Time. This is just casual sequencing, right? No big deal. This is, not a tutorial. This is just live sequencing. And it's fun, right? So far this year, we've done a bunch of songs. Right now, we're working on Holiday Road, Fireflies, and some other stuff. But this helps me sequence at least twice a week because really it's about putting in some regular time on it. But yeah, feel free to join in. Okay. Again, I'm going to skip over a lot of this stuff because a lot of it's really obvious, like downloading xLights and the Zoom room we just talked about, the manual. Okay, sequencing the big picture. Okay, sequencing is not a scary thing. For each display, you're going to have your theme, right? The theme basically says, what is your thing? Right? Is your thing snowflakes? Is your thing penguins? Is your thing mega trees? Whatever your thing is. And then you translate that into your layout. And I'm not going to hit the layout real hard here. Keith talked a lot about layout yesterday. There's been a lot of things there. And then you really get into the per song stuff, like your musical selection and then timing for the music and sequencing. And we're going to focus more on that piece. Okay, now talking about theme. Theme is actually pretty important. Um, let me skip to this slide. Oh, that's brand. So a theme, you really what you want to do is you want to develop your style. Like listening to Barry, he doesn't like hard edges and he doesn't like using the whole house effect. And a lot of people like, the submodels and the intricate, submodel patterns and that sort of thing. And what you do is you go out and look at a lot of people's displays, look at a lot of videos. And while you're doing that, you say, what do you like? What do you not like? Right. And that kind of helps you define what your style is. Right. Like I've seen singing faces. And you know what? Singing faces, they just aren't my thing. Eh, whole house effect. I love the whole house effect. It's not for everybody. Right. So it depends on what it is. And you kind of try to apply different styles to different types of songs, right? Because you're trying to get an effect out. But you do what you like to do. Do not go on Facebook and ask them for their opinions on your style because you're going to get a bunch of answers you don't want. Yeah, this is about you. Do what you like. Go watch Jeffrey Holmes's videos. I don't think he's at the summit this year, but he did a great presentation on the last summit about this. So we're not going to hit it too hard. Brand. Okay. Brand is basically what you want your show to be all about, right? Are you a classic Christmas person or do you like Gangnam Style in your Christmas display? Is it you're all about cutting edge technology and the latest props, or are you more into the musical aspect of it, right? But you need to decide what the show is to you. And then, of course, you can bring your theme. I love the Christmas Vacation movie, and one of my goals is to do all of the songs on the Christmas Vacation soundtrack, right? But I also got like a strong Disney sub theme going on with Frozen and the World Color and other things. And then, there's a lot of Winter Wonderland, and then I got this cactus that doesn't fit any of the themes, right? So themes are basically a lot of anything is really cool, right? And that kind of helps make things pop. If you got a bunch of random stuff, then you ought to go join the Great Christmas Light Fight, where they kind of like just stuff all their ornaments in a can and shoot it at their house, and boom, they win, right? So that's what themes are. I'm going through this part quickly because I want to, we've got a whole sequence we have to do live, and we only have a total of 2 hours to do it. Okay, layout. Basically the layout helps you. First of all, it is your display, right? It is a virtual representation of your display. It's also used for visualization, so you can see what it looks like. Now you can go nuts on this, right? You can go full 3D, and I've done this to my house where you get the hover and the OBJ file, you bring it in. And on my house, this actually works really nice because I'm measuring things down to the inch to see if I can fit in one more snowflake into this one, into a little crevice or not. But in general, you just need something that will help you visualize it in your mind. On the right there is my visualization from Lightorama days, and it worked great. Right. And it looks like crap on the screen, but when we actually applied it to the house, it was fine. So you can really go OCD here, but really you only need enough so that you can visualize in your mind what the house is going to look like. Okay. some really important concepts. Groups, right? You want to sequence by groups. It really does help speed up the sequencing effort. It also makes it so in future years when you go, like if I go in and add a couple more snowflakes, all I have to do is re-render. I don't have to resequence the whole thing. Okay, makes it very, very nice. There's also submodels. A lot of people talked about submodels, so that's not part of the scope. Now, in the slides are included with the sequence. I put in links here to the different places in the xLights manual. So if there's something you want to look up more, there's a nice handy link for that. Okay, this is just an example of groups. Layouts, everything centers around your show directory, and there's a lot of videos out there on X Essentials and other things that go into great detail about layout. You could spend hours and hours and hours here, which we're not going to do. Okay, this is just a simple flow diagram of how I got my 3D model. We're not going to get into it. Views. Okay, views are kind of important, and I saw that the Jeff Tell before talked about this for a bit. This is something that you will eventually trip over. All right, so it's one important concept you want to remember. So you can have as many views as you want of your show, and basically each of these views has a list of your models in a specific order that they're going to be rendered. Okay, and these views are saved with your layout. And then on a per song basis, you can pick any of these views to be your master view that gets saved with the sequence. And that's the order that the models get rendered in your sequence. Okay. And the order of those sequences is important. So let me skip to this slide here. You guys remember the dumb kid in art class, right? That kid who would always like go and he'd paint his house first, and then he'd go do the sky, and then where's the house? The house is gone. Why? Because the sky got rendered after the house got rendered. Okay, then there's the smart kid who drew the sky, rendered the sky, sky first, then put the house on top, and then the house rendered on top of it. Right? That's why rendering order is important, and that's essentially how it's working. So it works the models from the top down. So it will draw, like if you have the whole house on the top, it'll render the whole house. And then if you want your trees to do something different, you put that effect on and it'll overwrite the what's going on the house or in the background. Okay, but that's an important concept to remember. And every sequencing class I've seen so far during the virtual here, they've brought this up. Okay, so it's got to be important. Okay, now we're getting to the fun stuff. Music. Okay. Um, Music selection is a very personal thing. I think it's probably the thing that defines your show almost as much as the lights that you pick, right? Everybody remembers the guy who did all Slayer songs on his house, right? And that was awesome, right? So you pick songs that you like and ask yourself, does this song reinforce my brand or my theme, or does it take away from it? Right. And who's your audience, right? If your audience are all the neighborhood kids and they're Karen moms, you're not going to want to do all Slayer songs, right? But if you're living in a neighborhood and most of the kids are teens, they might totally love that, or you might have to pick something that's a little bit more relevant. Um, and also, how's it going to look when it's sequenced? Like, one of the songs from Christmas Vacation is Ray Charles' "Spirit of Christmas." It's not really a fast-moving 5-minute long song, right? So, it's not going to sequence well. So you have to think about those sorts of things. Okay. Respect the artist. I'm not a lawyer, right? But obviously, artists have rights. And from what I understand is that if you are, doing a show where you're not collecting any money, it's at your residence, you're perfectly fine playing music without getting special permission. If you are charging people for the show, or you have performers in your show that you're paying money to, then at that point you need to start looking into licenses. And I've actually purchased licenses for some specific things in the past. And you go to a place like BMI, you can get a package with like hundreds or thousands of songs to choose from. But if you're getting into that level, you should be working with somebody who really knows that that part of it. And also, give credit to the artist, right? Make sure, you go into metadata, put the information in there. It's super nice and useful. And also don't share paid for sequences. The people that do that work really hard at it. You obviously don't want to undermine their work. Okay, enough preaching. Editing the music. So this is one that I struggle with is you have a song and do you want to edit it down or not? Typically I use Audacity for this. But if the song is really long, like I did the whole song for Feliz Navidad once, and this is the song that would clear the crowds every single time because it was long, it was repetitive, and while I loved the song, other people didn't love it as much, right? So people would, tend to bleed off, which kept the crowds down. That was nice. But, you know, really what I should have done is I should have cut it down, right? Um, so deciding to edit it, is it too boring? Is it too long? Does it have swears in it? Like I use the from the Christmas Vacation soundtrack, there's where, Eddie is doing the shitter is full thing, and he says shitter's full. So I bring it into Audacity and it has a thing where you can generate a beep and I bleep that word out. But it's always great watching the Karen moms as that part's coming up. They're thinking, oh no, it's gonna swear, and then it doesn't swear. Um, Audacity is good for this. There's also Reaper. If you do edit your song and you plan to share it, keep detailed notes, right? And usually what I'll do is right here in the comment, I'll be very, very specific. I added this much to this part, deleted this, whatever I did, I'll try to add some very detailed notes in addition to providing the music URL. If you don't do that, it's just creating problems. Okay, it's so weird having everybody muted. I'm used to, okay, but that's fine. It'll be different next year or when we start meeting live again. Timing. Timing, I honestly think this is the hardest part of sequencing. This is the part that actually requires talent. Okay. So my timing skills are not great, right? I have a tough time if I'm listening to something. I have a hard time if there's 4 beats or 3 beats. Now my oldest daughter, she is a whiz with this stuff, but she's in college now and she's not much help. But there are things that you can do to make this work, to make this a lot easier. First of all, there's the Vamp plugins, the Queen Mary plugins. I don't know why they're called the Queen Mary. I think they probably, were invented on the boat. I don't know. This came up in X Essentials a couple weeks back. There is actually, if you go to the Vamp plugin sites, it is a newer version than what they have on the xlights.org page, and you get tons more plugins than what you get off of xLights, and that's fun. Play with those. Those are very helpful. I typically use the Beat Wizard, the Beat one most of all. Sometimes Note Onset. I used to use polyphonic transcription, but that one is not terribly useful anymore. Again, I'm not very musically inclined, which means if I can do it, anybody can do it. Find a friend that can hear a beat. In my case, it's my daughter. Watch some videos. Tom Bet George has some good videos. There was a couple that presented at the Florida Mini a couple years ago that was really good. Learn about bars, beats, and downbeats, and just go into YouTube and search for it, and you can find everything you need to know. Okay, timing tracks are important. We'll come back to this when we actually do the song. Okay. Singing faces, like I said, it's not my bag, right? But a lot of people love it. I just find that when you have singing faces, that seems to attract all of the viewers' attention on the faces, and you could have the most glorious effects going on in the background, and they hardly notice it. So, go figure. Okay, so talk a little bit about sequencing. Sequencing is by far my favorite part of the show. But again, back on timings. I think in terms of time that I put in on a sequence, I would say half, if not 2/3 of the time goes towards the timings. And this is the part where it gets really tedious, right? So one of the things I would put out there to the vendor, my daughter actually did this as a side job for a while. She would actually go and she set up a little website with PayPal. It was really cute watching her do it. But she would have people send her MP3 files and she would just mark them up for timing marks and then send them back to timing. So she would send them a track for this is the guitar and this is the drums, the snare, whatever. And there was a lot of value in the timing marks. I'm not one to buy sequences, but boy, I think I would be tempted to buy some timing marks if vendors are listening. Anyway, sequencing. Okay, like I said, why I got into the hobby. I think the sequencing part of this is a lot of fun. This mess is really uncomfortable. Okay. So the goals of the sequencing, obviously you want the lights to connect to the music, right? Because if not, why even sequence, right? You just do some effects and off it goes. The other reason you do sequencing is you want to have an impact on your audience. Okay. You want your audience to be like, wow, you want to see that kid just lose his mind, or watch that old person cry, or somebody just being, you want to have an impact, right? That's why we're sequencing. So the music, and Ron presented this really well, and I liked his points on this, where you're trying to tell a story, right? The music is actually trying to tell you something. It's trying to convey a feeling, and you want to visualize for yourself what you want to do. And Jeffrey Holmes did his class. He would actually dance out the song, which actually kind of added some motion to it, right? And the more you can figure out what this is, it really helps. Now, this is where I wanted to share an example. One of the songs I'm working on right now, and I'm just loving it because the story is really starting to come out. I'm working on Holiday Road, which is from 1983, the original Christmas Vacation. By the way, remember in Christmas Vacation, Art Clark is out there reaching around, finds Mother's Day gift 1983. That's reference to the original Vacation movie coming out in 1983. A little bit of trivia for free there. But anyway, this is Holiday Road by Lindsey Buckham. And what I like about this song in the sequence is that the story is really coming out. And a story is characters, it's climax, it's actions, and you're like, how can this be captured in lights? Well, let me play this a little bit. And you can so when you think Holiday Road, it's a road trip and the family's going on vacation, right? So watch this. And this is an example how you capture that. Take you right off the West Coast here. Holiday Road. Holiday Road. Holiday Road. Holiday Road. I mean, isn't that fun? Doesn't that just kind of feel like a road trip? Right? And that's really the goal, right? You're trying to connect with your music and connect with your audience, because guess what? You didn't write the music. Your audience has all their own built-in biases. So you're really just trying to connect the dots there. But I love that point that Ron made about telling a story. Okay. Here's the other part is you want to visualize in your mind what you want your sequence to look like. If you know what you want the sequence to do, then it's just a matter of technically figuring out, how do I get xLights to do this, right? And typically xLights will have 5 or 6 different ways to do it. So if you can visualize it in your mind, most of the problem is solved, okay? Here's some other tips. Good monster movie, you don't bring out the monster right away, okay? Now, if you watch Hong Kong versus Godzilla, or Godzilla versus Hong Kong, whatever it was, they brought out the monsters right away, but I think everybody agrees that was like the worst monster movie ever made, except the fight sequence in Hong Kong. That was awesome. So this is actually my personal Godzilla doll. I bought this when I was in Tokyo, and it was like the best thing. If you ever go to Tokyo, get yourself a little Godzilla doll and whip it out at the Japanese people. They play along. They'll go, Godzilla! Lots of fun. But the point is, don't break out the monster too soon. Okay. And can we get Brook Brew muted, please? We love having him here, but he got stuff going on. The thing is that you want, as part of your story, typically you're building up to a crescendo and then you're coming back off of it. Okay. So you don't want to break out the monster too quick. But also keep in mind that your show isn't just one song, right? So at the beginning of your show, you start, maybe you're not starting off with the super wow songs, right? You're leading them into it. So there's composition of the song, but there's also the composition of the entire show. Okay, now for some boring stuff. This is a key concept, okay? Especially for beginners. So on the left, when you are creating a sequence, you use xLights, you take in your MP3 file, and you are going to edit a .xsq file, which is an XML file, but it's basically the representation of all of your sequencing information, okay? And then you hit render, and that is essentially compiling all of those effects that you talked about and putting it into a .seq file, which is a binary file that if you opened up would make no sense at all to you and is the actual information that needs to be sent to the light. So xLights on the right, what it does is it takes that FSEQ file along with the MP3. The MP3 file, it just passes through to the audio device and it plays while it's sending the information out to the light controllers. But it's actually reaching into that .FACQ file, pulling out the parts that it wants, throws it out to the pixels, and the pixels play it. And that is actually what the original xLights that Matt Brown put together was. Now I hear most of that code isn't there anymore, but that was the original xLights before there was xLights. So understand the difference between the XSQ file, which is where you save your stuff, human readable effects, and the FSAQ file, which is the compiled version that the lights actually runs. And why do they do that? Because it's hella fast. If you've ever tried to do a lot of pixels with Lightorama before they got into S5, which I've never used, but when I was doing pixels on S4, it got really slow, really, really slow. And it was, so this is why one of the things that allowed xLights to really take off. Of course, the effects and the features are fantastic, but this was kind of part of the core technology. Okay, talking more about mood. Okay, different songs evoke different moods. Some songs are sad songs. Do you ever hear this Christmas shoes song? My wife absolutely refuses to allow it in the house. Then you have songs like Christmas Vacation where it's mostly upbeat, but then you can have fun songs like the Singing Dogs. The kids in the neighborhood love it, right? But different songs evoke different moods. Wizards of Winter is high energy. Ray Charles, Spirit of Christmas, which I've used before, is a very low energy song, but it's very sentimental. Okay. Um, Color palettes. A lot of people have talked about this. Picking a color palette for your song is important. Early on with Pixels, everybody picked rainbow color palette all the time, and it got really old really quick. And all the songs start looking the same. So pick yourself a good color palette. I like to look at the music video. I'll search Google. Like, for example, if I'm doing, by the way, Holiday Road video was a horrible video for color palette. But if you're doing Frozen, okay, you can actually look for Frozen color palette, right? Boom, here you go, color palettes. Just like you went to the paint store. Those are your colors. Pick one you like, all right? And the more you stick to the palette, the more the song will have a nice, cohesive look to it. Now, if you need something to pop in that, you could always take this color palette and then throw something red in the middle, all right? And that would make it pop, and that's contrast. And go easy on the rainbows, right? Maybe give yourself one song. I have one song where I go nuts with rainbows. I get it out of my system, and then that's it. So that's my World of Color song that I like to do, and that's a lot of fun for rainbows. Okay, let's see. Some examples are, some things are obvious, right? You're doing Blue Christmas, you want a lot of blue lights. You're doing Let It Snow, you're going to want a lot of white, right? There's Frozen. Mele Kalikimaka was a really good one. I went out and searched for Hawaiian color schemes, and I got loads. There's World of Color, right? You can actually go see the video and see what it does. Heat Miser, Cold Miser. So there's hot color schemes. There's cool color schemes. Okay, here I have a bunch of stuff about mechanics, and we're actually going to cover that in xLights. I just have it here for completeness sake. Masking, okay? We talked about masking. Ron Howard did a whole class on layering, so I'm not going to go into detail on this. But a mask for the artistically inclined, masks are like stencils, right? You spray paint on the stencil, which is a mask, you pull it off, and everything is colored that wasn't blocked out by the mask. For computer people, masks are like masks, right? You got a mask and you and it or it together and you get the result. So hopefully that covers most people, but masking sometimes is a little bit for some reason a little bit tricky. Value curves, we'll talk about that when we play with the sequences. And there's some general tips and tricks. There's a person down on my same street that has the Light-O-Rama show. Their Wizards of Winter is pure seizures. I mean, it is just super, super, super flashy. And if you find looking at a sequence and it's just way too flashy, if you just take like the border around your yard or around your house and you just leave it on, it will tone down that flashy a ton because people's irises aren't going to be going crazy trying to keep up because there's always going to be something on. Their irises will stay a little closer to fix and it won't induce seizures. The other cool thing you can do is wavelength shifts. Okay. Red and blue are the best. This is why the cops like this. I actually, for my Santa Claus is coming to town, I actually have or Here Comes Santa Claus. I have a part in there where it goes full police bar. But if you try this with your lights when they're on the house, just do all on blue, all on red, and alternate back and forth. And it will look like your house is moving back and forth 6 inches to a foot just because of the wavelength shift as the color changes. You don't see it when it's on the screen, but you'll see it on your house. Don't overdo it. You'll kill the audience. But if you really want to capture their attention for a second, it's a great way to do it. Negative space, black effects on top of a big field of color. Sometimes you have like a bunch of circles going and that's cool, but you want more light. So you do the whole house with colors and then have a couple black circles going across it. That's negative space. Very, very nice. And also, there are times in your sequence where you can let the audience fill in the blanks too, right? You don't have to necessarily sequence every little element. Okay, avoid red ruts. You want to keep it fresh. Color palettes will help with this. Also, try to, if you find that you're using the pinwheel effect all the time, like, this one here, there's pinwheels everywhere, right? Maybe your next song, you say, you know what, I'm not going to let myself use pinwheels. I'm going to do something completely different. Or I'm not going to allow myself to use the color red. I've used it way too many times. Or I need some green songs. I'm going to do a couple songs in all green and see how it works out. The other thing is take breaks, right? I work on a few songs at a time, so I'll have 2 or 3 songs going at any given time, different states of completion. If I work at it too long, it gets stale, and I find myself taking too many shortcuts. And it's done. It's done when you say it's done. When you're happy with it, you're done with it. You tweak it. Some songs I've been tweaking for years, but when you're done with it, there's some things you can do, and we'll do that later when we're playing with the song. Okay. And when you're done, videotape your house, share it, all of that. Don't call the media. Don't advertise. You'll hate yourself when you do, but you won't listen to me. You'll do it anyway, but that's fine. You can cause a lot of problems by inviting the media. Getting shut down is, due to traffic is the eventual demise of every successful unmanaged light show. So that's kind of the slide portion of it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to proceed into the tutorial, and I'm at an hour and 36 minutes, right? So I have a session and a half to go here. So with the tutorial, a couple of things to start. What song are we going to sequence, right? Well, we're going to sequence Jingle Bells, Batman Smells. Why? Because it's the obvious contender for xLights around the world this year. It first aired on The Simpsons in '89. It's obviously been around a lot longer than that. It's also royalty free and hella short, so that's why it's picked. It's a fun song. The audio is available on Napster, but if you look real hard in the zip file, who knows? Maybe I forgot to take it out. It might be in there. Color palette, pretty easy. I do a search on Batman. The color palette for this is basically going to be blue, yellow, purple, and let's see, blue, yellow, purple, and black, right? Very basic. Batman is an easy color scheme. We're also going to need a Batman graphic. This is going to be for our bat symbol, right? That's going to be kind of the big ending to the show. I got to have the bat signal going up in the air, and there's the lyrics, and then here's the general breakdown of the song. The reason I put this here is when I'm going through the different elements and I'm talking about different parts of the song, certain terminology. So there's the bomb 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 intro, so this is at the beginning. These two things are the smaller bomb bomb bombs. There's hey, the Joker got away. Hey, Batmobile lost a wheel. This is the other Batmobile lost a wheel. Robin laid an egg, so it does the song twice. And then the Joker got away, haha. And then at the end, they got these ending sprinkles. Okay, so that kind of helps you navigate the song. So when I'm talking in the slides about the bomb 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 intro, right? You know what I'm talking about. Okay, this is the layout guide to the house. I'm going to sequence this in my own house because I don't know how to sequence in other people's houses. This graphic is also included in the 3D model of my display. It's just inactive, so if people need it, they can find it. Ignore the groups with ZZZ. I'm in the process of getting rid of some groups that I don't like, but I got to get the data out of them as I transition from 2020 to 2021. So everything with the Z is going to be deleted. Okay. We're ready to start. See that? We're in 38 minutes and we're just starting. Okay, so let me go here. We're going to start a new sequence. Discard that. We're going to do a musical sequence. So we need to go pick our song. And Batman Smells right on top. Okay, now, lots of people say they always do it 20 frames per second because they can't see the difference at 40 frames per second. I see the difference when it's on the house. I can see it, and I also like having the more granular timing marks. So when they say 40 frames per second, that means you can have for each second you can have 40 timing marks within that second. If you have 20 frames per second, you can only have half as many. So it allows you to be a bit more granular with the sequencing. Okay, metadata, it's actually pretty. I think people should always include this, right? Who's doing it, right? You put your name up here. You put your email address because who doesn't like to get email, right? Most people don't get enough. And then your website, if you have one, listen to ourlights.com. The music URL, I'll come back to that. And under comment, I did not edit this song, right? Done. Okay, see? And now we have the song. The next thing I do is I go into display elements, which is this yellow button here, and I select listen to our lights. That is my view. And what this view is this view is the order in which the models and the groups render, right? So typically I have the whole house at the top, and then down at the bottom I have the little models. Okay, and so I'll have the whole display, and then I'll have the house, and then I'll have the yard, and then under the yard I'll have the trees, and I'll have the deer, and so on, so that it is that nice layered order. I'm trying to be that smart kid in art class and not draw the background first, right? So that's why the order is important. That's defined in my listen to our lights view. When I click this button, click, listen to our lights just became the master view. The listen to our lights view is stored with the layout. The master view is stored with the song. Each song has its own master view. And when I say make master, it basically copied whatever was in the listen to our lights into the master view. And that's what it's going to use from this point on. Okay. That's the start of almost every song. Okay. So now I'm going to save it. I'm going to name it something useful like Erase Me. It already exists. Yes. I did this the other day just to time myself to make sure I could actually sequence the song in the time allotted. Okay, so first couple of things, let's get ourselves some timing marks. So let's add timing. And I have the extended set of what do you call it? The vamp plugins, right? Huh? Jealous. Look at all those. Very nice. I still only use the beats. Okay, beats. Um, a really cool thing you can do, the beats thing will give you places for hints. You can go online and actually figure out the beat count. You can search the song and say, what's the BPM, right? For a given song, it will tell you. And then you have to like kill yourself to get the slider to land on it, but it does great. For this song, I can't find it. I just let it ride. It does fine. Okay. So it's back. Is there a way I get rid of this? Yes. Okay. So when I go over here, I can go now. If I play it, look, you can see
Jingle bells, Batman smells, Robin laid an egg.
and it's like, okay, it looks like it's doing the beat, but how do I know, right? First of all, let me zoom in. Okay, so these are the beats,
Mobile lost the wheel in a joke.
and it's like, I want to make sure it actually looks right. So one thing I do to help test my timings is I go and grab the VU meter. Keith talked a lot about this yesterday, and I'll put it on, something big like everything. Now I have my everything split out, right? So I have everything, but not the strobes because I don't ever want to dim my strobes. I still have some of the old style ones that don't respond well to dimming. And then I go down here and I say timing event pulse, okay? And I just pick a color like white. And then timing track beats. And it should flash with the beat.
Jingle bells, Batman smells, Robin laid an egg.
See, and I can tell right away that it's doing the right thing.
Laid an egg.
But you notice there's a bum bum bum, right? So listen to the bum bum bum. It doesn't go with the beat, right? It goes with the beat, but it's subtype. There's additional timing marks I need.
An egg. The Batman.
All right, so it's like, okay, well that's going to need some work. So I'm going to give this one. I'm going to rename. It's an empty timing track. I'm going to call this one lyrics. Now I don't do singing faces. But I do include the lyrics. And I have the lyrics right here. Oh, I did this to myself. Okay, so let me grab this. Let me get a notepad. There's the first part. And here is the second part. Okay. I just copy that. Go back to xLights. Right click on lyrics. Well, first of all, let me do one other thing. Where does this first word actually start?
Jingle.
Starts right here at about 0.75 seconds, 0.8 seconds, let's call it. Doesn't have to be exact. And that's the other thing. Don't get hung up on perfect, right? Perfect is not your friend. So when does it start? It starts at about 0.8. All right. I'm going to take this off because this is really starting to hurt. Good. Get my glasses off. Oh, I don't know how Batman actually does that. Ooh. Well, that's way better. Okay, so it starts at 0.8. Paste in my lyrics. Okay, boom. See that? Look, it put all the lyrics in there. This is where I really start my timing. Now, first of all, I want the timings for the bum, bum, bum. Notice I got the waveform in here. The letter T allows you to drop in a timing mark, right? So you can go, I can see it's like right there, right? Now, usually the note actually starts a little bit in. Ooh, what did I do? I didn't want that. You can delete a timing mark and it's fine. Okay, I want to do this. Actually, I'm going to create another timing track. I call this an empty one. I usually name these manual. I saw Barry names his working. It's the same idea. But you got one where you can do some stuff, right? So I'm going to say a timing mark here, T, a timing mark there, and a timing mark here, right? We'll come back to that. I'm getting ahead of myself. So back over to the lyrics. So the first lyrics are bum, 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 right? So it starts about here and comes over here. And I'm just getting them close, okay? And then it's jingle bells.
Jingle bells.
All right, so jingle bells hits about here.
Jingle bells.
Then Batman
Batman smells.
smells. is right about here.
Bells, Batman smells.
Oh, it's way over here.
Bells, Batman smells.
Robin laid an egg. If you don't know the words, you're gonna know them.
Smells. Robin laid an egg.
Okay, and what I try to do is I kind of watch for the pattern and the waveform where I want to
Laid
hit.
an egg.
Okay, and then we got 3 bombs, which appear they're going to be right about in here. Timing marks start getting a little bit far away. You got to reach for them a little bit.
Egg. Egg.
And it's really starting right here, it looks like.
The Batmobile.
And that's close. We'll come back. I'll show you how you come back and make that a little bit perfect. And timing marks don't always have to be perfect. It depends on what you're doing, right? Okay. Yeah. Okay, just tell me when you want me to pause, right? Because I'm looking at it as one long session. So we'll take a moment to pause. We'll let you switch over, maybe take a couple of questions in the middle. Okay.
The Batmobile.
And what we'll do as well is when we're done, we're going to I'm going to skip ahead. It's like Julia Roberts, remember the spy who was actually a cook, or the cook who was actually a spy? She would like start the beautiful turkey and then she goes, ta-da, I got one half cooked in the kitchen. I have that with the timings, okay? But what I do is I get the lyrics lined up to the different sections where they are, because for me, this represents the scenes. And when you're sequencing pixels, back in Light-O-Rama days, it was always like to the beat, because that's all you had. But now that you have all of these pixels and these colors and options, what you're doing is you're doing scenes and you're setting emotion and tone by scenes, and the lyrics help break that up. Also, it depends on the song. If you're doing Christmas in Sarajevo, it's all about the music. When you're talking about the musical genius of Batman Smells, it's more about the lyrics, right? So, the lyrics are going to mean more. Now, some places you're going to have to nail the timing, right? Because let's say it's the only thing that's you're going to have one element on your show flashing with the beat of that timing. You want it to be dead on. Okay. So let me show you how we do that. And this is painstaking and this can get really boring, but this is how it's done. Okay. So you come in here, we got the bums. It's a really good example. So let's get zoomed in. And if you got a super wide monitor, this is a good time to use it. Okay. So bum. No matter what I do here, I will not get it right because I'm John Storms and I do not have that good of an ear for music. I can say it roughly starts over here and it kind of ends over here, right? But I can't hear it. So I called down to Scotty in the engine room. I said, slow us down to half impulse speed. All right. And I'm trying to listen for it. And it's kind of that deep thud. So it kind of sounds like it starts here. And I could see I was a little late there. I think that's kind of it, but I'm still not sure. But I hear it at half speed. So we say drop it down to quarter speed. And let's zoom in a little more. You can't set your fine-tuned timings unless you're zoomed in a little bit. Okay, just the way the GUI works. So we come in here and we listen. See that? Like the second one. If you're having a hard time hearing the second one, for example, another trick is you can highlight it and you hit this play over and over. And you kind of visualize in your mind where that should be. Okay, so it's either this one or this one. See, that's as fine-tuned as I can get with the timing. I can't get any more fine-tuned than that. That's my 40 frames per second at work. So I think that one is a little better. And I think this one is pretty good. And let's see. You know what? I think I'm actually a whole one off here. So I can come in and just hit T and drop in this one here. Here we go. All right. Now, if you're not sure, because it's like, that's hard to hear, we bring out the handy dandy VU meter beat, beat checker, which will help us test if our thing's okay. And now I need to switch it from beats to lyrics. Okay. Now I got this extra one here. Let me get rid of him. Actually, get rid of this guy and whoops, got the wrong end. I can heal it like that. Let me pull this over. See? That looks pretty good. Now, proof is in the pudding. So let's go ahead and go to full speed and go see how it looks.
Egg, the Batmobile. Egg, the Batmobile.
And that looks, so that's how you get the timings as close as you can. There are other techniques. If you're musically inclined, I think you can use math and things. But for the layperson like me, who can't keep a beat, that method seems to work pretty good. It gets tricky, like in Christmas Eve for Sarajevo, when you have pianos and drums and things going all on at the same time. It's harder to pick it apart. So usually what I'll do is I'll focus on a section, listen to it at full speed, drop it to half speed, and try to pick out what I'm listening for, like the guitar plucks. And then once I can hear it in half speed, I go down to quarter speed, I can hear it. If I go all the way to quarter speed right away, I miss it. And no matter how good I think I did it at half speed or full speed, I'm always off a bit when it comes to quarter speed. Now, Keith will argue it doesn't make a difference. I don't know. I see the difference, so I think it does. I think it does impact. Okay, we're at a minute and 53. So let me do this. So what I'm going to do is I am going to close this sequence. I'll save it. And now I'm going to go and I'm going to pull out the half-baked version out of the oven. So I got Jingle Bells, Batman Smells. See that? Timing done. Okay,